Part 8. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 71. Chapter 71. How could it be him? At this point, she is riding a tiger and is in trouble. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Zhang Shiwei forced herself to remember the process and constantly build herself up mentally. What she could do was to taste it, say a few words, and analyze the rough ingredients. What would happen if she said it wrong? Can they still eat themselves? But even so, I still feel uncontrollably nervous, and even the hand holding the test strip is trembling slightly. After completing a series of processes, there was still a faint aroma lingering on the tip of her nose. She tried hard to remember and analyze the ingredients first. It was better to talk about it in general than to say nothing. Ms. Zhang. This time, as soon as the host opened her mouth, she responded quickly, I personally like this perfume better. I usually prefer light and elegant scents, and this one just won my heart. I don't know what kind of person the creator is, but I think he should be quiet and indifferent, just like Tao Yuanming in ancient times, picking chrysanthemums under the east fence and leisurely seeing the Nanshan mountain. By the way, this perfume has the delicate aroma of chrysanthemums. I think it must be the essential oil extracted from dried chrysanthemums, regardless of the nose and eyes mentioned earlier. When it comes to the latter sentence, it is obvious that there is a lack of confidence. It has a bit of an element of temptation. She wasn't sure, but she couldn't say anything and just started talking nonsense based on her past experience. Whatever, as long as you can pass this level, that's fine. This. The host hesitated, and her heart skipped a beat. Isn't it right? I don't know what ingredients are in it, but listening to Miss Jiang's description, it feels very good. Why don't we invite the creator of this perfume and let him answer it in person? And by the way, listen to what Zhang, how correct is the lady. The mood that was already slightly relaxed was tightened again because of his words. I can only hope that I can be partly right, or that the part where I flattered the other party can make others be merciful to her. Amidst the applause of the crowd, a person walked up from the stage unhurriedly. Zhang Shiwei didn't even dare to look at it. She just stood on the stage and applauded with a smile on her face. Her cheeks were hot, and she had to force herself to be calm. She must have the confidence to stand up straight and speak no matter what the other party said. Welcome to the creator himself. Now let Mr. Rosen introduce this perfume to us in person. The host's words surprised Zhang Shiwei. She turned her head suddenly, and sure enough she saw that familiar face, with a very gentlemanly smile, taking the microphone from the host. How could it be him? Rosen held the microphone, looked at Zhang Shiwei, paused, and then turned his gaze to the people in the audience. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for the invitation. I personally feel honored. Although I grew up in France and have been influenced by spices and essential oils for many years, I like the culture and heritage of China very much, he replied with a mouthful. Speaking in fluent Chinese, he said, the inspiration for this perfume also comes from a poet from China. After a pause, he smiled slightly, then turned sideways and faced Zhang Shiwei and said, yes, as Miss Zhang said, it is the great poet Tao Yuanming. I admire his attitude towards life very much, and I also admire him very much. I love that poem. I'm glad someone understands me. With that said, he walked over, took one of Zhang Shiwei's hands, and looked at her deeply with his blue eyes. Thank you, Miss Zhang. Lift her hand up and kiss the back of her hand gently. There was surging applause from the audience, but on the stage, Zhang Shiwei subconsciously shrank her hands. What others could see was that Rosen kissed the back of her hand, but only she could feel it. He stuck out his tongue and licked the back of her hand. Very quickly, just for a moment, she immediately retracted and let go of her hand, so fast that people couldn't react. But when he licked and kissed, it seemed like there were little thorns on a cat's tongue, piercing people's hearts, making them feel irritated and confused. Zhang Shiwei's cheeks turned red, but in front of so many people, she couldn't say anything. She could only lower her head and smile. It looked like she was shy because of being praised. Only Suyun narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at Zhang Shiwei playfully. She was a little far away, so she couldn't see clearly what Rosen was doing, but Zhang Shiwei's expression and appearance were definitely not shy about being praised. She was so shy about taking credit for others' work and taking it for herself. People are waiting for praise and praise, so how can they be shy and blushing? Interesting. On the stage, the host was still praising. It seems that Mr. Rosen and Miss Zhang really have a good understanding of each other. For this, we are very pleased. The purpose of this tasting is to tell everyone that not only there are many foreign, we also have excellent perfumers in our country. And we have reason to believe that the perfumer industry will soon develop and grow in our country, and more and better talents will emerge in the future. We also hope that everyone will have a brilliant future. Let's go, Suyun said, bumping Zhao Xian with her elbow. Don't you think that Miss Zhang and Mr. Rosen are weird? Zhao Xian tilted her head and looked at them. Suyun subconsciously glanced at the stage, only to see that the two people were still standing separately and did not make eye contact. There seemed to be nothing wrong with them. But, Zhao Xian also saw it. What's weird? She said disapprovingly. Pretend to be strangers, Zhao Xian gestured with her chin. Have you forgotten, we didn't meet that Rosen on the plane? They were together at that time, but now they don't seem to know each other, and they sing and praise each other to the sky. Tisk tisk. She smacked her lips twice and said with emotion, I really didn't expect that masters from abroad are so hypocritical. Suyun. After thinking for a while, Zhao Xian added, but who knows what kind of master he is? There are so many fake people these days who just want to gain a title and reputation. It's boring, it's really boring. Standing up, she didn't intend to stay any longer. Let's go back and have a rest. Let's go collecting the wind tomorrow. She glanced at the two people again, and when Zhao Xian said this, she remembered that the foreign man sitting next to Zhang Shiwei on the plane was indeed the foreign man. What's interesting is that it's okay that Luo Yuanhang didn't accompany her. The two of them were obviously familiar but pretended to be strangers. Is this a deliberate show to flatter Zhang Shiwei, or? While walking out, I always felt that something was not quite right, so I subconsciously raised my eyes and looked upstairs. The upstairs is empty, except for a few tables, there is nothing. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 72. Chapter 72 The Enthusiastic and Proactive Little Wife. Today is a day full of ups and downs for Zhang Shiwei. She almost thought she was about to fall into the boundless deep sea and sink like that, but at the critical moment, it was Rosen who pulled her up. On the way back to the hotel, her heart was filled with mixed emotions and indescribable feelings, so much so that Rosen held her hand all the way and she didn't break away. Silence, silence, silence. There is an uneasy atmosphere floating in the air, restless, jumping, and making people ready to move. Rosen held her hand and rubbed his thumb on her palm, making her heart become more and more confused. After arriving at the hotel and getting off the car, Zhang Shiwei was led into the elevator by his hand. As soon as the elevator door closed, he suddenly turned around and pinned her between him and the elevator. Mr. Rosen, she exclaimed, putting her hands on his chest. Rosen's eyes were burning with fire, and his breath was as hot as his eyes, spraying on her face with a faint smell of alcohol, and Zhang Shiwei's heart was beating wildly. Wai Wei, I helped you today, shouldn't you thank me? He put one hand on the back of her head, and the other hand rubbed her lips, rubbing off her lipstick. I opened her mouth, and while Zhang Shiwei was still hesitating, he kissed her fiercely. He simply couldn't tolerate her rejection. Zhang Shiwei didn't even have room to breathe, let alone rejection. She hummed softly, instinctively wanting to resist, but due to the disparity in strength, she was no match for him. Ding! There was a sound from the elevator and the door slowly opened. The floor where Zhang Shiwei's room was located arrived first. Rosen stopped at this time, and let go of one hand to make some space, turning sideways so that she could see the corridor outside. Without much thought, Zhang Shiwei rushed out. However, as soon as she stood outside the elevator, she heard Rosen's voice saying, "Wai Wei, I have many shortcomings. The biggest one is that I am impatient. I can give you a chance, but once or twice, I won't do it. There will be so many more opportunities waiting for you. Tonight, for the last time, understand?" Zhang Shiwei didn't dare to answer, until she heard the sound of the elevator moving behind her, and then she slowly turned her head. Sure enough, he has left. However, she did not breathe a sigh of relief. The burning heat on her lips was still there, reminding her of the madness that had just happened, and more importantly, Rosen's words. She knew that Rosen was definitely not joking. He could let her go once and let her be embarrassed, and he could also reach out and pull her up to make her shine in glory. He had this ability, and she had no need to doubt it. And tonight, if I reject him again, I'm afraid I won't have a chance even if I change my mind in the future. She was extremely conflicted and struggling in her heart. She subconsciously touched her lower abdomen with one hand, not knowing what to do. Suyun originally went back to the hotel with Zhao Xian, but halfway, Zhao Xian answered the phone. "Really? Where? Now?" As she said that, she turned to look at Suyun again. "Can't we come together?" Suyun asked silently, but she didn't answer. She listened intently to what the other party said, and then nodded repeatedly. "Okay, I know, I understand. Then I'll go right away. Don't worry." It wasn't until she hung up the phone that Suyun asked, "What's wrong? Where are you going?" "Well, the company purchased a batch of spices and asked me to go over and take a look," she nodded and said. "Then I'll go with you," she said immediately. But Zhao Xian shook his head. "No, it said above that I have to go alone and can't take you with me." Probably because he was afraid that she would misunderstand, he quickly explained, "This may not mean that I don't trust you, but sometimes the problem is not necessarily with the company, but with the other party. You know, some party B always have weird rules. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, the company's car will take me there, and the driver will be there too. He'll take a look at it when I get there, sign it, and then come back." "I understand," she nodded. "It's just that it's so late and I don't feel comfortable with you going alone." "Silly girl. What's there to worry about?" Zhao Xian smiled and patted her forehead. "It's not the first time I'm on a business trip. I've traveled to countless places by myself. This time, it's me. I'm taking you, not you. How come you act like a big sister and still protect me? Then, okay, does your mobile phone have battery? We can keep in touch at any time. If you need anything, call me. Pay attention to the situation there, everyone is there." Suyun still felt uneasy and warned again and again. "Okay, my little housekeeper," Zhao Xian said and handed her the room key. "Then you go back and rest first. You are quite tired today, and you have to go collecting scenery tomorrow." After accepting the room card and arriving at the hotel door, Suyun got out of the car alone. Watching the car drive away, she thought about how Zhao Xian had more experience in these aspects than herself, so nothing would happen to her. Moreover, it was arranged by the company, so there shouldn't be any problems. Enter the elevator, go upstairs, and go back to the room. Swiped the room card and entered the door. Just as he was about to reach out and turn on the light, he was hugged from behind. "Who?" she screamed, and without thinking, she raised her foot and used the heel of her high heel to step on the person. Unexpectedly, the person reacted quickly. He ducked back to avoid her attack. When she turned around and struck with her elbow, she was also blocked. Suyun. Suyun was startled and retracted her strength in time. Then she saw the person she had been thinking about all day and night, Yao. Why are you here? He stared wide-eyed, fearing that it was his own imagination. I missed you, he said so naturally, hugging her around the waist, carrying her dumbfounded into the room, then turning on the light and closing the door, all at once. Yao looked at her with a smile, and liked the surprise he found in her eyes. This showed that she liked his appearance. The next second, Suyun suddenly opened her arms and hooked his neck, pulled him down, and said softly, I miss you too. Then, warm lips took the initiative to press on her. Yao raised his eyebrows. He was very surprised. He didn't expect that his little wife would be so enthusiastic and proactive, and would even take the initiative to throw herself into his arms. This was simply so wonderful. How could he be passive? Of course, he wanted to deepen this long-awaited kiss. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 73. Chapter 73 Mr. Si is jealous. It felt so good to be held in his arms. Suyun raised her head and asked, when did you arrive? Placing a gentle kiss on her forehead, he said, guess. Well, we even played a guessing game. Suyun glanced at him sideways and thought about it seriously. You will also set off on the day we set off, right? It's just that the time is different from ours, maybe a little later. Yao laughed, held her face and kissed her hard twice. What a smart girl. Because when I called you at that time, your phone was always turned off. Even if you were in a meeting, you wouldn't turn off your phone. I guess you were on the plane at that time. Looking back now, it must have been at this time. It's just that she didn't expect him to come at the time, so she didn't think about it in this aspect. You are so smart, how should I reward you? He smiled, falling in love with her more and more. He simply picked her up and sat on the sofa, letting her lean completely against him. It felt so good to have her in his arms. To prevent herself from falling down, Suyun opened her arms and hooked his neck, and continued to ask all the questions in her heart. So, you also arranged the first-class cabin and Rolls-Royce? He nodded, not denying it at all. Sister Zhao just answered the phone and was going to meet some client. Was it arranged by you? The voice was raised in pitch, with a hint of doubt. Are you going to use your power for personal gain like this? Little Fist pushed him. How can you let a girl go alone to meet some clients this late at night? What if there is any danger? Obviously, the reason why he appeared here so smoothly, and because Zhao Xian happened to be away, everything was arranged. However, she really felt bad about putting others in danger just for the sake of their little fun. You do care about her. I don't know why, but there is a sour taste in these words. She is my colleague and also my friend. You should care about your friends. Suyun thought for a while. I'll call her and ask her to come back. Hold her hand that was about to take out the phone. Yao said, you have to think clearly. It is not appropriate for us to make our relationship public now. If I call her back now, I have to leave. Looking at him, Suyun was really reluctant to give up. Not long after they met, she thought that he was leaving soon, and she felt 1,000 reluctances in her heart. But, it was almost late at night when I looked outside, and I felt very sad when I thought of Zhao Xian being alone outside. Then we can't let her be alone outside because of us. She took out her hand. Anyway, we still have plenty of time. We can go back after the collection is over. and we won't see each other every day. She is more important than me." The sourness in his tone could not be concealed at all. "Oh, Mr. Si is jealous." Soo-yoon glanced at him. "Are you jealous?" "Can't you see?" He didn't regard jealousy as a shameful thing at all, and even looked a little proud. "Soo-yoon, but she's a girl." "You're not jealous because of a female friend of mine, are you?" "Does jealousy need to be separated?" he asked rhetorically. "All right. There is nothing easy to explain and communicate with a jealous and unreasonable man. Okay, I feel very honored to make Mr. Si jealous. But..." She paused, held his face with one hand, looked at him and said, "We also have to think about others. I'll give her a call, see how she is doing, and make sure she is safe. You can at least stay for a while." Then she quickly pecked him on the lips, and then dialed the phone. "Si Yao." What she said was so reasonable and she gave him such a sweet treat that it was difficult for him to refuse. "Sister Zhao, have you arrived?" "How is the situation over there?" Soo-yoon asked tentatively. She actually didn't know whether the customers over there were real customers or fake ones arranged by Si Yao, whether they were real or fake. It is always right to check the safety of your friends. "How long will it take?" "Then come back early. If anything happens, remember to call me." Ah. At the end of the sentence, Si Yao pinched her waist gently, causing her to scream. She rolled her eyes at him and said quickly into the phone, it's okay, I just accidentally touched my foot, it's nothing." "Well, don't worry, pay more attention to yourself, that's it, bye." Hunted up the phone in a hurry, and went to stop his disruptive hands. "Don't make trouble." "I didn't say a word or make a sound, so why did I cause trouble?" He looked innocent. "You didn't say anything, but your hands were not idle," Soo-yoon said, imitating his appearance, reaching out and giving a squeeze to his waist. However, he did not react at all, not even subconsciously dodge. Looking at him with wide eyes, he is still a human. "Don't you have any conditioned reflexes?" "Look, I didn't touch my feet, so it's your problem, not mine." Soo-yoon. Also learn how to speak like her. So unlovable. She stood up to break away from his arms, but he held her tighter, then turned over, suppressing her on the sofa, leaning against her, his eyes blazing. The sudden approaching distance forced Soo-yoon to look directly at his face. Even at such a close angle, she couldn't find any flaws in his facial features. God really favored him. Slowly raising her hand, Si-yeon watched as her hand got closer and closer to his face, then she put it close to his face and slowly stroked it along his contours. "How?" He glanced at her hand and let her make mistakes. "Are you deceived by my beauty?" "Yes." Soo-yoon nodded seriously, "It's beautiful and delicious. In this case, it shouldn't be wasted, why not taste it properly?" His voice was hoarse, with the bewitching power of a low baritone, as if it was magnetic, attracting her deeply and sinking her into it. "That's what I meant," she smiled, hooked his neck hard, and kissed the lips that seduced her. She can now understand very well why there is the saying a small separation is better than a new marriage, but after only 2 short days of separation, her heart and mind were full of him. "When I saw him, all my overflowing thoughts rushed out. I just wanted to hug him and never let go." The heat in the room rose sharply. Si Yao hugged her tightly, wishing he could rub her into his bones. "Soo-yoon, Soo-yoon." Call her name softly. Soo-yoon's head was a little confused, and her whole body was full of him. Her fingers slipped into the collar of his shirt. The expensive shirt had already been ravaged into disgrace. End of this chapter. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 74. Chapter 74. Is he hiding his little lover? With deep affection, at this moment, Soo-yoon's cell phone rang. She fumbled for her phone in a daze and picked it up. She responded vaguely, hello. Suyun, I'm back. I'm buying midnight snacks downstairs. Do you want something to eat? It was Zhao Xian's voice. In an instant, Suyun woke up, pushed Si Yao away and sat up. No, no need, I'm not hungry. Oh. Are you already asleep? I'll be there soon. Oh, okay. After hanging up the phone, she suddenly came to her senses and quickly stood up and pushed Si Yao. Hurry, hurry, Zhao Xian is coming back, leave quickly, don't let her find out. I was busy arranging my clothes, and then picked up his coat and handed it to him. Only then did I see him sitting there motionless, with a face as dark as the bottom of a pot. Well. Okay, I know I can't help you today, but I can't help it. You also know that it's not suitable for us to make our relationship public now. What's more, Zhao Xian knows you, she coaxed him softly, what can she do? It's the boss. Si Yao snorted from his nostrils, I said this as if no one knew me. Suyun. Yeah, I am so arrogant. Yes, 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 the whole world knows you. You are the big boss, Mr. Si, the powerful CEO, and the CEO. But now, could you please avoid it for a moment and feel aggrieved? While she was comforting, she was still a little anxious. Zhao Xian said he had already arrived, so he probably bought midnight snacks near the downstairs area. But he said he didn't need to bring them with him, so it would probably be faster to get up there. Had I known it earlier, I would have ordered 2 random things to eat, at least it would have delayed some time. I want to urge him, but I don't dare to go too far, lest I make him angry. Si Yao glared at her angrily, stood up and put his coat on his arm, and then she pulled him to the door, you stay away for now, and we will contact you again. By the way, this is the restaurant you should have booked. It's a hotel room. Just send me the room number and I'll find you when I have time. Suyun thought that since he was here, according to his style of acting, he must have booked a room in the same hotel, so that it would be convenient to meet each other without having to go back and forth. Hearing her say this, Si Yao's face looked better, you said so. Yes, yes, that's what I said. Come to me. Definitely. Comfort. He bent down, brought his face close to her, and pointed at his cheek. Suyun. Why did this man act like a child sometimes, coaxing, pampering, and eating sweets? She was anxious and amused, and stood on tiptoe to give him a kiss on the cheek. Unexpectedly, when she was about to touch him, he suddenly turned his head, quickly pecked her on the lips, then straightened up and rubbed her head. Let's go. Subconsciously, he raised his hand to cover his lips, his heart palpitating. Watching him leave, he stood at the elevator entrance and waited for the elevator. He waved to him. He entered the elevator and the door was closed. The elevator next to him happened to arrive. He opened the door and Zhao Xian walked out of it. Zhao Xian saw her at a glance, opened his arms and walked towards her. Hi, are you waiting for me? Suyun's heartbeat almost skipped a beat. They were just a little bit away from colliding with each other. Her smile was a little unnatural. Yes, that's right. Looking at the stiff smile on her face, Zhao Xian stood in front of her, tilted his head and looked around, pointed at her and said, something weird. There's nothing weird. It's not what you said, we're about to arrive. I thought I'd get up and open the door for you anyway, so I might as well check to see if you've arrived. You see, how accurate I am at timing, she babbled a lot to cover up his slightly panicked mood at the moment. Taking advantage of the situation, he took the things from Zhao Xian's hand, turned around and walked into the room. I bought something delicious. It's not your fault, Zhao Xian said. Don't be so stingy. He opened it on the table and saw that there were soup, cakes and rice inside. It smelled very fragrant, but there were many unfamiliar things. However, how could she eat so much by herself? She obviously has a hard mouth and a soft heart. You said you don't need it? You can't regret it, Zhao Xian said and went to grab the chopsticks in her hand, but she quickly dodged them. While tasting them, she continued to dislike her. Have you washed your hands? Go wash your hands quickly. Don't steal my food, I didn't forget to warn you before I went to wash my hands. Su Yun set up the chair, then took out everything inside and opened the lid. After finishing it, Zhao Xian also washed his hands and came over. I didn't eat anything at the tasting party. This kind of wine party is actually the most boring thing. The things are flashy and not as good as these street snacks. Well, what are you buying? I don't think I've seen them before. I don't know much about it. Some local snacks are recommended by the boss. Hey, you don't want to eat them? Zhao Xian knocked her chopsticks and said in disgust. Hey, it's hard to reject such hospitality. If you are so enthusiastic, I have to support you and give you some face, right? Su Yun smiled and served her food diligently. No need, that's what Zhao Xian said, and the two of them chatted while eating. Even though they bought so much, they cleared most of it. Zhao Xian was stroking his belly and wailed, no, 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 I'm going to die. I have to take a shower, please clean up. Okay, Su Yun said without hesitation, you go first. Yeah, Zhao Xian nodded and walked towards the bathroom. After taking 2 steps, he seemed to think of something again and turned back. That's not right. What's wrong? Su Yun didn't realize it at all, looked at her and blinked. Were you sleeping before I came back? He looked at her suspiciously, as if he was examining something. Su Yun, yes. Isn't this incident all over? Why did it suddenly come up again? You don't even change clothes or take a shower when you go to bed. You've been back for so long and you haven't taken a shower yet. She stepped closer, her eyes scanning up and down her body. Subconsciously covering her chest, Su Yun secretly screamed, oh no. She had forgotten that she was still wearing the clothes she had worn for the meeting. As soon as she arrived at the door of the room, she was hugged by Si Yao, and then the two of them. How can I take a shower or change my clothes? Huh? What am I? What were you doing before I came back? Did you hide your little lover? Huh? Pointing at her, Zhao Xian teased her half-jokingly. Although it was a joke, Su Yun couldn't help but her heart was beating wildly. What nonsense are you talking about, little lover? I'm not familiar with the place here, and it's my first time here. I was just too tired when I came back, so I just lay down. I fell asleep on the sofa. Where is the mess you thought about? End of this chapter. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 75. Chapter 75. Men just talk casually. Is it? He asked suspiciously, prolonging his voice. Su Yun took a deep breath and stretched out her hand to push her. Be more confident and get rid of that. That's it? Hey, why didn't I notice you were so gossipy before? It's better to be the cold and irritable. You go take a shower quickly. I'll take a shower after you finish. This is a sign of a guilty conscience after being told by me. Waving his hand, Zhao Xian said, forget it, don't care about it like a child. Then he turned around and went to take a shower. Su Yun. She breathed a sigh of relief, finally getting over it, but this also meant that during the time Si Yao was here, she had to be more careful to avoid being caught. Thinking of him, she hurriedly touched her pocket and took out her mobile phone, and saw that he had indeed sent a message, 1808. Obviously, this is the house number. Unable to help grinning, she sent a received expression, and then began to clear away the garbage on the table. After finishing everything and sorting out the clothes he needed, Zhao Xian opened the door and walked out stroking his wet hair. I've washed it, you go ahead and wash it. Yeah, she responded. When she walked to the bathroom door, she thought of something again. I'm very tired today. You don't have to wait for me. If you want to sleep, go to bed first. Who is waiting for you? I don't need you to warm my bed, Zhao Xian said, rubbing her hair with a big towel. Suyun. It was nearly 12 o'clock, and Zhang Shiwei was still not asleep. Although she was lying on the bed, her eyes were wide open, and her mind was filled with Rosen's words. Tonight, after tonight. Why is it so difficult tonight? How wonderful it would be if it was just dawn and there was no need to make a choice. But the night is long. If she misses this opportunity, will she still have a prosperous future? Unable to fall asleep, I simply picked up my phone from the pillow. The screen turned on, but there was no movement at all from Rosen, not even a message. This man is so calm and he understands her so well. He had completely poked her weakness and knew what she wanted, but he was simply waiting for her, the rabbit, to take the initiative to throw herself into his arms. She knew that there was a bottomless abyss ahead, but she couldn't control the temptation deep in her heart. After hesitating for a long time, she dialed Luo Yuanhang's phone number. The ringing lasted for a while, and then the other party picked up. Luo Yuanhang's voice was a little vague. Wai Wei, what's wrong? I can't sleep, she bit her lip and said softly. Why can't you sleep? Are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere? Has your child troubled you? Luo Yuanhang immediately asked with concern. Well, it's okay, but I just can't sleep. Maybe, I miss you, she said coquettishly, trying to help herself. Yuanhang, can you come over and accompany me? Okay, I'll finish my work here and then go over to accompany you, Luo Yuanhang replied quickly. This was what Luo Yuanhang had always said. But it was also because he answered too quickly that he seemed so insincere, and it was completely careless and perfunctory. Zhang Shiwei was a little unhappy. When will you finish your work? When you finish your work, it will be over here. Can't you come over right away? Tomorrow, now. Will it take a long time for you to book a flight? It's only 2 hours, can't you stay with me? Wai Wei, don't make trouble. It's not like you don't know what's going on here. Everything is on track. We will be able to get back on our feet soon. There are so many orders from the factory, and we are just resting on our laurels. Without new products, it will be impossible to keep up. No, by the way, have you found any talents there? Luo Yuanhang is all about business and profits. When it comes to this, he becomes concerned about recruiting talents. No, she said angrily, you just know talents. I am like this. I don't have the strength to help you find talents. Do you think talents are so easy to find? Luo Yuanhang said patiently, it's hard to find, but it's hard to find talents. What we lack most now are excellent perfumers. If we can't keep up in this field, we will be unable to continue our work. Luo Yuanhang. Apart from talents and business, what else do you have in mind? You don't care if I am bullied here. You know that Suyun is here too. You don't even care about me. Do you ask me? You know how embarrassed I was during the tasting today? I almost couldn't get off the stage. All the grievances broke out at this moment. She was originally unhappy today, but now Luo Yuanhang not only didn't care, but was still talking to her about business matters. Business matters, as if there is only business matters between them and nothing else. It wasn't like this before. In the past, he could be romantic, give her small surprises from time to time, accompany her at any time when she went out to participate in activities, and fly all the way here just to give her a kiss. But now, he doesn't even have many phone calls. Hit 1. After being yelled at, Luo Yuanhang was silent for a long time. What happened to the tasting meeting? Why is it so embarrassing that you can't get off the stage? What did Suyun do to you? Do you still care? Having already sat up and covering half of his face with one hand, Zhang Shiwei sobbed softly. Luo Yuanhang, let me ask you, Can you still do what you promised me before? What? I didn't understand what she meant for a while. Have you forgotten everything you promised? As expected, you don't take it to heart at all. Men just talk about it casually. They are just perfunctory and fooling me. I thought you were sincere. He said what he said back then to let her be a full-time wife with peace of mind, to let her enjoy happiness without suffering hardship, and to help her walk into the halls of honor. But now, he asked what he said, and he didn't even remember what he said. Well, how could it be possible? No, Wai Wei, Luo Yuanhang didn't understand what she was talking about at all. Can he still keep what he promised? I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Shiwei's expression became much more indifferent. Wai Wei, I know you are in a bad mood, but you also have to understand me. Things are different now. In the past, when there was someone there, I didn't have to worry about new products, but now we have to rely on ourselves. After a pause, he muttered in a low voice, actually, if you can concoct some new products. So, is it my fault? Zhang Shiwei grabbed the quilt with one hand and became angry. It's useless to blame me for not being as good as Suyun, blame me for not being as capable as her, blame me for making you worry, Mr. Luo. No, Wai Wei, that's not what I meant. He knew he had said the wrong thing and quickly changed his words. Luo Yuanhang, since she is so good, go find her. After saying that, Zhang Shiwei hung up the phone angrily. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 76. Chapter 76. The little thing who doesn't mean what he says. After hanging up, Zhang Shiwei refused to answer Luo Yuanhang's call. Later, she got tired of it and simply turned off the phone. With such a fuss, I couldn't sleep anymore, so I got up and walked to the window. The window was not big, just a small square shape. Standing by the window, she could not overlook the night view of the city like the presidential suite. It was like a frame, framing her entire life. She could already see that her life was destined to be like this, and that would be it for the rest of her life. Luo Yuanhang couldn't give her what she wanted, so she couldn't count on him. Sure enough, people still have to rely on themselves. Even if she is completely devoted to him, so what? Suyun wasn't completely devoted to him at the beginning, but he wasn't hanging out with her all day long. What about the future? In the future, will he despise himself for being old, and then be with another woman? Then, who will she be? Thinking of this, I feel very scared. Even if the window is not opened, I feel cold and shivering. Hold yourself with your hands, raise your head and look up at the ceiling, bite your lower lip hard, and make a decision in your heart. I took a bath for myself, then put on my makeup carefully, put on pajamas, and then put on a jacket. I looked carefully in the mirror. Fortunately, I kept my figure well enough. I look like myself now. She still looks stunning. Ordered a bottle of red wine and brought it to her. Carrying the red wine and taking the room card, she walked out and took the elevator directly. She found Rosen's room very accurately. How could she forget such a dream room? Originally, she was not very confident about Rosen, and she was not sure what kind of strength he had, but after tonight, she felt reassured. The organizer had specially invited her. With such a big face, he helped her out in front of everyone. With just one word from him, she could become the center of attention. With just one word, he could easily trample her into a puddle. Mud. He has such ability and strength. It is better to hold on to him than to hold on to that loser Luo Yuanhang. Although he may not be able to promise himself marriage and love, at least he can make her become a leader in this industry step by step. The fame and fortune he can bring to himself will be unpredictable. At that time, when she is rich and famous, she still wants love and marriage, and what kind of man she wants. After thinking about this, she became less entangled and uncomfortable. When she pressed the doorbell, she thought she would have to wait for a long time, but unexpectedly, the door opened soon. Rosen stood inside the door, wearing an extremely loose nightgown with loose straps, exposing his strong chest muscles. Under his nightgown, he wore nothing but a pair of underwear. The desire in his eyes was so straightforward. Before tonight, Zhang Shiwei would not have dared to look directly at him and could only avoid his sight, but now. Now that you have made a decision, there is nothing to be ashamed of. Lifting up the red wine bottle in her hand and shaking it in front of his eyes, she revealed a wanton smile on her delicate red lips and said, "Hi, Rosen, I've thought about it." Roused the corners of his lips and smiled with satisfaction. She stretched out an index finger, accurately poked his chest, and pushed him in with a little force. Su-yun came out of the shower and saw that Zhao Xian had fallen asleep and was breathing heavily. It seemed that he was really exhausted. He tiptoed over and helped her pull the quilt, then turned off the light and carefully exited the bedroom. This is a small business suite. There is also a set of sofas, tables, and chairs in the compartment. After eating, she packed away the supper bags piled on the table. At this moment, she was not sleepy. Today's tasting session was quite fruitful. Although the differences between the several new products launched are not big, they all fit the same theme. But what's interesting is that she later tried the sample of Rosen's perfume provided by the organizer. Although it had a fragrance similar to that of chrysanthemum, an expert could tell at a glance that it was not the same. In fact, Lawson should have used a little cleverness to refine the chemical spices, which taste similar to chrysanthemum, but they are not. Maybe the intention is to test the people participating in the tasting? It can be seen that this person is a bit arrogant. He thought that no one would see through his clever tricks. The perfumers participating in the conference were not at his level at all. They were really too arrogant. However, he did not expose Zhang Shiwei. Instead, he echoed her words and made her the object of praise from the audience. This operation is also quite thought-provoking. The phone buzzed and vibrated twice. Su-yun picked it up and took a look. It was Si-yao who had sent her a message. There was only one sentence: "Children who herd sheep will eventually be eaten by wolves." Su-yun. She thought for a moment and then realized that he meant that she was a child herding sheep. Because she promised to go find him when she had time, but never went. This is considered a lie, a lying sheep-herding child. Why should we be eaten by wolves? It's a shame he figured it out. This man was making trouble, which really left her speechless. She couldn't even speak properly. She had to beat around the bush and guess what he was thinking. However, Si-yao like this is indeed very cute. I looked at the time. Although it was very late, it's never too late for a date. Carefully took a look at the bedroom and saw that Zhao Xian was sleeping soundly, turning over and muttering something. She couldn't help but laugh, went back and took the garbage bag on the table, and quietly went out. He first threw away the garbage, then took the elevator upstairs. Sure enough, he was on the floor above. With the dim light in the corridor, he found 1808. He raised his hand and was about to knock on the door, but the door opened directly from the inside. Then, she was pulled in and pressed against the wall. Si-yao closed the door with one hand and supported the wall with the other, leaning forward for a passionate kiss. It was really accurate and ruthless. He kissed her for a long time before letting go, leaning against her and whispering softly, "You little thing who doesn't mean what you say. Why don't I say anything? I've come to find you all the time," she gasped. "Can you be more childish? You're a sheep herder, why don't you talk about Pinocchio's nose?" Yao laughed lowly, smiled for a while and said, "Okay, I'll say that next time." Suyun felt helpless and gave him a gentle punch, but he grabbed his fist, put it on her lips, and kissed her again and again. "I miss you." Suyun's heart suddenly felt soft and sweet. She lowered her head. "I miss you too, I miss you so much." The distance slowly narrowed, and the space between the lips became smaller and smaller until they were pressed against each other. This time, it was so gentle, careful, and precious, as if it was the most precious treasure in the world and needed the most caring care. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 77. Chapter 77. Originally, I didn't let you control it. Yao kissed her and hugged her, but stopped at the last step. Hands pinched her waist softly, seeming to sigh reluctantly. "I do." Suyun hugged him and confessed her true feelings to him. "I really do, and I won't regret it." Yao absolutely believed the determination in her eyes. He rubbed her into his arms fiercely, lowered his head and kissed her hair gently. "I know." "Then why?" Suyun was a little confused. "I don't want to be so hasty." He sighed softly against her. "Because it is a treasure, we value it. Because we value it, we are cautious. What's more, such a beautiful thing must of course be done at the most appropriate time and the most romantic night." Suyun put her head against his chin and opened her arms to hug him. "Actually, I don't care. The most important thing is that person, everything else is just flashy." He understood what she meant and was deeply relieved. He hugged her and lay on the bed together, looked into her eyes and said, "Sleep." Suyun still looked at him with her eyes wide open. "If you look at me like this again, I may not be able to control it anymore." His Adam's apple rolled up and down, and he restrained it, but that didn't mean that he didn't have instinctive impulses. Hot blood was rushing through the blood vessels in his body. This kind of patience requires a lot of reason and will. Powerful. "Originally, I didn't let you control it." Leaning closer, she kissed his lips. Such a soft bed, such soft lips, with the girl in his heart resting in his arms, even a saint would find it difficult to survive. The tense string in Yao's mind seemed to be broken with a bang. He turned over and pressed her down, his eyes filled with dark waves. "Your choice." In fact, the two people's bodies were so close, almost airtight. She could feel his state and his patience, but even so, he still had to ask her, which showed how much he cared. Her feelings. "This is what she wants. It doesn't matter whether you are rich or not, but please have me in your heart, only me." "Yes, my choice." She pulled his neck down with her hand and took the initiative to greet him. She tilted her head, her red lips parted slightly, revealing her white, pointed teeth, but she bit his raised Adam's apple. This was more bewitching than any other provocation. All reason collapsed under this action. His hand slipped into her palm and interlocked with her fingers. Originally, he didn't plan to be here. Originally, he wanted to make more plans. Originally, he wanted to give her more romance and beautiful memories. But, since it was her choice, he had no choice but to do as you wish. When Suyun woke up from her sleep, it was still dark, and she woke up suddenly. I glanced at the blue curtain-like sky outside, and then at the time. It was after 4 o'clock. Not bad. While she breathed a sigh of relief, she thought of something again, and turned to look at Yao, who was still sleeping. He had his eyes closed, and even his profile was incredibly beautiful, but she couldn't be greedy at the moment. Everything last night was going out of control. She didn't know how she could be so bold. It was her initiative. Of course, she had no regrets. But after all, Zhao Xian is still in the room. If she is found missing, then... Thinking of this, I quickly got up and got dressed secretly, not wanting to disturb him who was sleeping. But no matter how small the movement was, he still noticed it. opened his eyes and looked at the figure from behind. Want to leave? Startled, Suyun nodded. I have to go back, otherwise Zhao Xian will wake up later. It's Zhao Xian again, he frowned, looking very unhappy. Transfer her back to the headquarters another day. Suyun. There is no such thing as retaliation, Mr. President. Even if she is transferred, I will still have other colleagues. You can't leave me without any colleagues. Maybe she will be replaced by a male leader, then. Before she could finish her words, Si Yao pulled her over and pinned her down, looking at her fiercely. How dare you? Suyun chuckled loudly. I don't dare, so in comparison, it's better for Zhao Xian to be here, right? He hummed softly, but the pressure on her was much lighter, and he stroked her hair with one hand. Why not? Let's make it public. The smile on her face froze. Suyun shook her head. Wait a minute. Sighed lightly. No matter what, he still respected her opinion. At first, he had an indifferent attitude towards the secret marriage. Anyway, they were already married, so it didn't matter whether she told others or not. But now, this kind of sneaking around like a thief is not exciting at all, and it is even annoying. Anyway, I'm downstairs, so it's very convenient to meet you. Suyun patted him gently and coaxed. Besides, I can't stay here for more than a few days. I'll go back soon. We have a long way to go. Si Yao hummed a syllable from his nostrils and said meaningfully, yes, the future will be long. Suyun felt that his tone was weird, and she didn't react for a moment. She stared into his eyes for a while, her face slowly turned red, and she spat at him. Rogue. Then he pushed him away and stood up. It's dawn. The sun is dazzling, pouring in from the transparent floor-to-ceiling windows, just pouring on the big bed. Her eyelids moved. Zhang Shiwei reluctantly opened her eyes, and what came into her eyes was the boundless beautiful scenery outside the window. At this moment, she suddenly didn't regret it so much. Even though her whole body was sore, as if she had been completely disassembled, this was even more painful than her first night with Luo Yuanhang. Rosen is not only very strong in that area, she is also very capable of doing anything. Throughout the night, from bed to bathroom, to the living room, to the sofa, she has no other choice but to cater to her. However, he also promised that he would take her to France and bring her into contact with the top class of perfumers, making her one of the most famous perfumers in the industry. Think about the fame you will get in the future, and the pain you feel now is nothing. Rosen was still sleeping, with his eyes closed, exposing his strong upper body. Zhang Shiwei endured the pain and got up, wanting to get out of bed to wash herself off. As soon as her feet touched the ground, her wrists were pulled from behind, and with a strong tug, she lay heavily back on the bed. Ah, she exclaimed, and almost instantly, she was suppressed beneath her. Obviously feeling his desire, she was a little frightened and looked at the person in front of her with wide eyes. Rosen, I'm a little tired. Let's go take a shower first, okay? She was really scared, and her body hurt everywhere, especially. Looking at his appearance, he seems to have no intention of stopping. Is this man tireless? This energy and physical strength are too terrifying. Rosen's dark blue eyes stared at her, his fingers slowly sliding on her skin. You have no right to say no. After saying that, he lowered his head and started a new day of collecting. End of this chapter. Si Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 78. Chapter 78 Boyfriend. Suyun tiptoed back to the room, swiped her card to enter the room, and tried her best to appear as if nothing had happened. You still know how to come back, she turned around and closed the door. Before she could turn around, she heard a voice behind her, and her neck suddenly tightened. Hey, are you awake? Looking back at Zhao Xian, she was still wearing pajamas, sitting on the sofa outside and looking at herself, as if she was waiting for her. Did I wake you up? Hey, I wanted to go down and throw away the trash and buy something to come back early, but I didn't expect that I woke you up. I'm sorry. She had already thought about these words in her heart. He said it smoothly. Yeah, Zhao Xian snorted heavily and said, make it up, keep making it up. What are you making up? She blinked and said, hey, I got up too early, I'm so tired, I'd better go back and take a nap. Speaking, he stretched himself and wanted to go inside. Zhao Xian moved very quickly. He stretched out his legs and blocked her in front of her. Where to run away? Su Yun smiled helplessly. Why should I run away? I'm going to sleep. No sleep. Tell me honestly, where did you go fooling around last night? She spoke righteously, almost like an interrogation. Su Yun smacked her lips. This little word was used in a fool's errand. No, who am I fooling around with? I'm fooling around with you. When I came out from the shower yesterday, you fell asleep, and then I rested for a while and fell asleep too. I went to bed later than you and got up earlier than you. What fools, why do you say it so harshly? As he said that, he stretched out his hand to push her away, but Zhao Xian stopped her. I woke up at 1 o'clock in the middle of the night, and you were not here by then. Do you dare to say that you were asleep? When did you get up? At 1 o'clock I got up soon, went to throw out the garbage, and then threw it away until now, right? Su Yun. She didn't expect that Zhao Xian would wake up so early. Don't say anything when you wake up, but judging from this posture, you have been waiting for her? You didn't stay up all night, did you? He leaned over and looked at her face. It seemed that the dark circles under her eyes were really serious. I feel so guilty. Don't change the subject for me. You also know that I haven't slept here all night, waiting for you, and even turned off my phone when I was on the phone. You can't bear it? I will wait for Don to call the police. Say, don't tell me clearly. Don't go anywhere today. Blocking the door, Zhao Xian seemed unwilling to give up. Su Yun. I said, I got up at 1 o'clock at night, and then I couldn't sleep to take out the garbage. Then I went for a night run on a whim. I got lost while running, and I found it later. Do you believe it? He stared at her cautiously, telling lies that you don't even believe. However, when I saw Zhao Xian's eyes full of resentment, it was true. Sighing heavily, she gave up the idea of entering the inner room, returned to the sofa, sat down, thought for a while and said, I'm going to meet a friend. Friend? Zhao Xian immediately followed. What friend? Isn't this your first time here? Are you not familiar with the place here? Where do you have your friends from, male or female? Why do you have to meet them so late? You. Looking at her dumbfounded, Su Yun said, Sister Zhao, you are interrogating a prisoner. I admit that it was wrong of me to hide it from you, but I have my own privacy. I'm not denying you privacy, but this is your first business trip with me. The geographical conditions here are special and the relationships outside are complicated. If something happens to you, how will I explain to your family and the company? I can't ignore your safety. Her concern is obvious. It was precisely because he knew that she cared about him that Su Yun did not feel disgusted and allowed her to continue asking. However, her relationship with Si Yao is still not suitable to be made public at this time. Even if she has something to hide from Zhao Xian, she can only apologize to her in the future. Don't worry, my friend is not from here. He comes from out of town. He happened to have something to do when he came here, so we met. After a pause, she thought for a while and said, the reason why it is so late, we just met because he had just finished his work and everyone had their own things to do during the day, so. Although this explanation sounds a little far-fetched, it is at least more reliable than going out for a night run and getting lost. Nodding thoughtfully, Zhao Xian suddenly remembered something, a man. There was no need to answer. Seeing her speechless expression, Zhao Xian guessed it. Boyfriend, he asked again. Having reached this point, Su Yun said, so be it. If you have a certificate, you are your husband, if you have not received a certificate, you are your boyfriend, so, they are pretty much the same. Oh, she breathed a long sigh of relief, looking relieved. Su Yun was a little amused when she saw Zhao Xian's attitude. Why do I think you are quite happy that I have a boyfriend? This situation is like a mother looking forward to finding a partner for her daughter. To be honest, I'm quite happy. The fact that you have a boyfriend means you shouldn't. After a pause, she did not continue. Seeing her hesitating, Su Yun thought of what she had to say at the tasting party last night. At that time, he was still reluctant to speak, as if it was something unspeakable. She didn't think much about it at the time, but now that the topic was brought up, Su Yun guessed and asked, what can it be? Forget it, these are just boring rumors. He waved his hand, feeling that he had doubted and believed it, which was quite embarrassing. But even if she didn't say it, Su Yun could roughly guess it. You want to say that I have a backer and background, and I was able to get in because I climbed to a high-level position in the freshman class, right? No, no, that's not what I said, Zhao Xian quickly explained. Su Yongxiao said, I know it wasn't you who said it, but that's probably how it's spread in the company. Not entirely, now that everything has been made clear, there is nothing to hide, Zhao Xian said. No one else knows about the company, but I know that you must stay after Mr. Wang gave the order to die. Man, of course, I already know your abilities, but at that time, I felt that you were indeed a well-connected person. Hearing what she said, Su Yun smiled lightly. She was not angry at all. She knew that it was absolutely human nature to think so. Because of this, she didn't want to make her relationship with Sci-fi public. She wanted to prove her ability and didn't want to do it because of Sci-fi or the Chu family. Zhao Xian continued to say, but I don't think you are a close relative of the freshman. Mr. Wang is the biggest. I can see that he has nothing to do with you. But for Mr. Wang to protect him to the end, I'm afraid it's the higher UPS, the relationship with Huanya is there. Su Yun was shocked, but she didn't expect that Zhao Xian had already guessed it. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 79. Chapter 79. It's someone's arrangement again. Su Yun smiled nonchalantly, so, who is it from Huanya? Looking at her, Zhao Xian sighed, who else? Everyone knows it was a misunderstanding. I don't know why Mr. Wang must keep you, but I know that it is definitely not as simple as connections or luck. You have the strength of. This sentence directed at her was the greatest affirmation for Su Yun. Thank you, I'm glad you think so. Okay, stop flattering. Aren't you going to bed? Go get some sleep quickly, but you can't sleep for too long. Zhao Xian looked at the time and said, we have to go to the base early. Base, Su Yun repeated, but she soon understood. Southern Yunnan is rich in all kinds of flowers and plants. The climate is inherently warm and suitable, so there are large breeding bases. Not only are there many varieties, but there are also some new artificially propagated and grafted products, and the quantity is absolutely considerable. As a perfumer, it is best to search for some natural spices from nature. These flowers and plants are originally treasures given to us by God. Each one has its own uniqueness. After bringing it back, after further refining and secondary processing, there will be various perfumes and other spices. Then I won't sleep. Let's set off right away. Su Yun looked at the time and said, I'm going to take a shower and change clothes, and let's go. Aren't you too tired? Zhao Xian watched her walking towards the bathroom and couldn't help but ask. It's okay, I took a nap too. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly felt that her words were not appropriate. Looking at Zhao Xian again, she saw a meaningful smile. Forget it, the explanation is not clear, it is better not to explain. Zhao Xian quickly finished her shower and came out. Zhao Xian had already packed her things and was waiting for her. Let's go straight downstairs to have breakfast. There is a buffet in the hotel. It should have started by this time. Just as I was about to go out, the doorbell rang. Who is it? Zhao Xian was relatively close to the door and did not open the door even after asking. Room service, I'll provide you with breakfast, sorry to bother you. A very polite waiter's voice came from outside. Looking back at Suyun, Zhao Xian opened the door in surprise and saw the waiter pushing a dining cart at the door. Excuse me, I'll bring you breakfast. Isn't there a buffet in the hotel? Is there an extra charge for this? After all, she had to bill for reimbursement when she went back, so she asked one more question. This is already included in your room rate. As for the restaurant buffet, you can also choose. As the waiter spoke, he quickly put all the food on the table and placed the bowls and chopsticks. I wish you a pleasant meal. Looking at the dazzling array of breakfasts on the table, Zhao Xian was simply stunned. What kind of buffet restaurant are you going to? The buffet is nothing more than a buffet. I'm afraid it's not as exquisite as the breakfast here. Not only are the varieties rich, but the portions are also so large. How could the two of them eat late? The service in this hotel is so good. Be sure to remember the name and book this hotel next time. Zhao Xian couldn't help but sigh, sat down and waved to Suyun, who was standing aside, still stunned. What are you doing? Why don't you sit down and eat? Let me tell you, I have traveled so many times on business, big and small, and I have never encountered such treatment. This hotel is really good, and the company is also very awesome this time. We must work hard this time. If we can have inspiration and the harvest makes this trip worthwhile. She sighed and was extremely satisfied with this business trip. Suyun knew very well that all this was probably arranged by someone. He is really considerate. After breakfast, we set off. It was just before 7 o'clock. There was a cool breeze outside and the temperature difference between morning and evening was still a bit big. Suyun wore a thin coat and a sun hat. Since she was going to the flower garden base, she naturally had to pay attention to sun protection to avoid getting sunburned. This time, it was not a Rolls-Royce that came to see them off, but a Wrangler. Zhao Xian didn't say anything, but it could be seen that his eyes were shining. The appearance of this car is really cool, and it is more suitable for off-road use. It is perfect to use it today. I didn't expect that the company's arrangements were very detailed. I never knew that there were so many car models to choose from when traveling on a business trip. Looking at the scenery outside, Zhao Xian said with emotion. Then, she turned her head and looked at Suyun. Suyun's head was pressed against the window. She could feel the eyes on her, but she was afraid of being seen, so she pretended not to know and kept looking out the window. But this is not the case, and you will be chosen to let it go. Zhao Xian suddenly came closer and leaned into her ear. Your boyfriend must be a senior executive of Huanya, right? Suyun turned back and glanced sideways at her. If so, why do you think I came as a freshman instead of going directly to Huanya? Zhao Xian. That seems to be true. Hey, the treatment this time is really good. If I don't get such treatment when I go on business trips in the future, I may have a psychological gap, she sighed, and Suyun just pretended not to hear it. The flower garden base was quickly arrived. Before we even got close, we could already see large tracts of flower fields. When we drove in along the road, we were filled with colorful flowers, which made us feel better. This flower field is so large that you can't see the end of it with the naked eye. When the car stops and the door is opened, the fragrance of flowers will hit your nostrils. A sneeze, a sneeze. After sneezing twice in succession, Soo-yoon took out a mask and put it on, which made her feel a little better. Her nose is very good and she can distinguish the smell of hundreds of different spices. Perhaps because of this, she is also particularly sensitive. When the fragrance is strong and mixed, she can't bear it. Zhao Xian understands it very well. She also feels that the fragrance is very strong, but she is not as sensitive as she is. Because of the previous communication, the people from the flower garden base quickly welcomed them out, gave them a brief introduction, and then led them inside to visit. This area is full of roses, but even for roses, there are many varieties. There are sunflowers over there, and camellias over there. Pointing to them, his face was full of pride. Don't be afraid to boast. Even in the whole of China, let alone in southern Yunnan, there is no flower garden base as big as mine here. No matter what kind of flower fragrance you are looking for, you can find them all here. Can we take a look for ourselves? Zhao Xian nodded and then asked. That's okay. After a moment of hesitation, the other party said, but please be careful not to get lost. This place is very big. Even if you don't get lost, walking too far will make you very tired walking back. Zhao Xian agreed, don't worry. End of this chapter. Shao's sweet wife, she is doted on. Author, Jin Yet. Chapter 80. Chapter 80. Last night, I was very satisfied. The people at the garden base didn't brag. It was indeed very big. The two of them walked for almost a whole morning, and their legs and feet were weak. However, they hadn't finished walking yet, and they estimated that they had only walked 1/3 of the area. Okay, it's almost time to go back. Let them bring over all the flower seed samples later. Let's take another look and set the choice and tone. It's almost done. Zhao Xian clapped his hands, a look on his face. It's all sweat from the heat. The temperature difference between morning and evening is indeed quite large. It was still a bit cold in the morning, but now even if I take off my coat, I am still so hot that my mouth is dry. I want to see it again, Soo-yoon said. Ah, Zhao Xian was a little surprised. What are you looking at? In fact, we have almost seen it. It is so big here, we may not be able to see it all in one day. Otherwise, which area or flower species do you want to see? I will let you. People from the base took us there in their cars. Just walking like this is so tiring, it's going to kill me. No, I don't have any particular flowers to see. I just want to walk around and see if I find anything new. They have samples of all the flower species there, and they have selected the best varieties. In fact, it is no different from what we find here. Although Zhao Xian said this, seeing her insistence, he said, okay, if you want to find it, I will accompany you to find it. Actually, what she said is right. In the entire industry, this is pretty much the case. After reading the samples, you can decide on the flower types and the approximate quantity needed. The base will ship them directly to you at that time. Most people will not go through the entire flower garden base in person. Well, thank you for your hard work. Although she was a little sorry, she would not give up because of this. Even though the base has samples of all varieties, she wants more than just flowers. Nature is rich in species. In addition to flowers, there are also grasses, trees, various vines, etc. All of these may be the source of spices without going to find them yourself. It's likely to be missed. Recently, she has a new idea, but she has not been able to find suitable raw materials, and she doesn't know if she will gain anything here. Fragrance is based on feeling, and feeling is something that cannot be explained. She can only find it by herself, and there is no way for anyone to help her. She slept until 3 o'clock in the morning. When she woke up again from the big bed, Zhang Shiwei was already confused and couldn't tell what time it was. The bed was empty, there was no one except her, it was as if it was a dream. She suddenly came back to her senses, and wanted to sit up, but when she moved a little, all the bones in her body seemed to fall apart, especially from the waist down. She almost lost consciousness. This man is so cruel. Gritting her teeth secretly, she took in the cool air and moved from the middle to the edge of the bed, then slowly moved her legs to the floor. As soon as her feet stepped into the slippers, she heard the sound of the bathroom door opening. Then, Rosen wrapped a large bath towel came out of it. Hiss, she gasped subconsciously. She was very panicked and her eyes were wandering. Just watching him walking towards her step by step, her subconscious reaction was to run away. However, where can she escape here? Rosen approached her and slowly bent down, with his hands supporting both sides. The strength in his waist almost made the towel fall off. The hair on his chest was also very strong, just like his needs in certain aspects. "Baby, are you awake?" He pinched her chin and lifted her face up. "You, get up." Zhang Shiwei forced out a smile, fearing that he would push her down again. She had no restraint at all. It was terrible. "Don't be afraid, I won't eat you." He raised the corners of his lips and smiled, and said, "I was very satisfied last night." Zhang Shiwei's face turned red. Even though she had done it before, she still felt a little ashamed when she heard him say this to her face. "So, you will get what you deserve." These words instantly dispelled all her sense of shame, and she suddenly opened her eyes wide and looked at him with bright eyes. "Really? Of course it's true." He lowered his head and kissed her lips, and said, "Go take a shower, get dressed, and I'll take you somewhere." "Where to go?" Zhang Shiwei immediately became energetic after hearing what he said. "Don't you want to learn from me and become a star perfumer? Then you don't have to ask so many questions. Wherever I go, you go." Finally, he let go of his hand and stood up straight, his tall and condescending figure carrying an invisible oppressive aura. Yeah, she nodded obediently, and wanted to pull the sheet over and wrap her around her body to go to the bathroom. Unexpectedly, he grabbed the sheet and tore it off with a force. "On your body." His fingers slipped from her waist. "Is there anything else on your body that I haven't seen? What should you cover?" Zhang Shiwei. Although that is true, it feels like she is a commodity, priced arbitrarily in his eyes. Although she was a little uncomfortable, when she thought about it, she gave him what he wanted and then got what she wanted. It was not just a transaction, it was just a piece of goods. Now she cares about dignity and shame, isn't it? That's ridiculous. Once you have figured it out, you won't feel so uncomfortable anymore. Let go of her hands and let the sheet slide down. She stood up generously, endured the soreness of her legs and feet, leaned over and kissed his cheek. "Yes, you are right." Rosen was very satisfied, and smiled quite proudly when he saw her walking into the bathroom without any trace of clothing. After taking a shower, her physical fatigue was relieved a lot, but because her clothes were still in her room, she could only go downstairs and change clothes in last night's pajamas. When she returned to that crowded small room again, her mood was completely different. Soon, she would get rid of this life and live the kind of prosperous life she wanted. I chose a slightly skirt and paired it with silver high heels. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself. Although my face looked a little haggard because of last night, I still had a great figure. A woman should make use of her natural capital. There is nothing wrong with her, right? After I was satisfied with my makeup, I remembered to pick up my mobile phone. It had run out of power last night, so I put it in the room to charge. I thought I wouldn't need it tonight, but as soon as I turned on the phone, messages kept popping up, all of them. "It's from Luo Yuan Hang." "Wai Wei, answer the phone, I have something to tell you." "Wai Wei, are you still angry? Listen to me explain to you." "Wai Wei, turn on the phone, I'm worried about you." "Wai Wei, it's all my fault, please forgive me." "Wai Wei, I can give you whatever you want, so don't be angry with me, okay? You know clearly that I only have you in my heart. Looking at the information, Zhang Shiwei's heart was no longer disturbed. Before last night, she might have been soft-hearted and hesitant, but now that she has made her choice, she will not look back. Whatever she wants, she will give it to herself and wait for him. Forget it. End of this chapter.